Howdo guys, it's Luke at Geekgaming Scenics, and in this video I'm going to take you through how to build some realistic roads. I'll see you after this. So guys, building roads is one of the things that I've always put off, because whenever I see people building them they always forget the camber in the road. I always see some high-end railway modelers adding a camber, but it's not something you see in Wargaming, and I've always wondered why. And I think it's because people are always recommending sandpaper, roof felts and things like that. They don't really have a strong solid structure. Now I'm using quite a weak material, but we'll get back to that in a second. I'm cutting out some short strips. These don't have to be perfect, so it just has to be slimmer than the road. And I run them down the middle, that's why I marked it with felt tip pen. And as you can see, this 3mm balsa, it just bends very easily. Now, the surface that I'm putting it on is very uneven. The edges, because the foam was actually thicker than the frame that I built. So I'm just putting some modelling compound on there, just to level it out. And the reason I'm using compound is because it dries very quickly, and it's very easy to manipulate if you need to level it out a bit more. To glue this in place, I'm using hot glue. I need to do this very quickly because with it having a bend in the wood, you want something that's going to grab very quickly, and it's got some body to actually submerge the wood into. Now the one problem with using hot glue is it dries very quickly, so only work in small areas at once, because peeling this off once you've actually let it go off is a bit of a pain, so work very quickly in small areas. And as you can see, I'm just holding that in place till the glue goes off, so it's strong enough just to hold it. Now a small tip is to put it on quite hot. It might melt the polystyrene a little bit, but don't worry too much, but just get it on quickly and press it down in place. If you do not get it down quick enough, don't worry too much, because we'll come back in a second and then run a bead down either side, and that'll hold it in place. Plus it'll cause a little lip, so it holds it down better later. Now this will work whether you're making modular terrain or you're fixing it to a board. Just build a bigger base plate than the road that you require. Now to level this out to the baseboard that I'm building, or your modular terrain, I'm using more modelling compound and just spreading it out along the side to create the banking. So the road is above the surface still, in the middle, but the edge of the roads actually come down to meet the ground level either side, and that's the benefit of using the compound. Plus it dries very quickly, so you can do all this in one evening if you have to. Now the other thing I would do while you're using the compound as well is put things like laybys or little dugouts, or somewhere where car tracks even, where they've gone off the side of the road. Very good for doing that, and it holds its shape and it's very robust, so if you are building this as a modular piece of terrain, it'll hold itself up to use. Now for the road texture, this is one thing that I've been battling for quite a while, and I've nailed it with this. What you do is you use spray paints, and then we dust some talcum powder over that. The talcum powder first you put on quite roughly and into little piles, and then we brush that out just to cause some sort of inconsistency so the road doesn't look too uniform. If you was doing a very modern road, like an A road for example, then do it neatly, but if you're doing like little B roads like this, it's nice to have some inconsistencies. And then just every layer that you do, spray some more spray paint over that to lock that in place. Then once the paint's still wet, we'll just apply a very fine dusting of talcum powder through a flour sieve, and that means it goes all over very neat and very flat. Now so it's not all the same thickness and coarseness, we're using the black sand from the Geekgaming base ready range. This is almost as coarse as talcum powder, it's just a little bit coarser, so you get some difference in texture, so it's just not all the same. And then once you've put both of them down, spray it with a can again from a distance. If you do get some fragments that blow about and cause like some dusting and create some sort of damage to the road, leave it, because we can dust this off later, and it does create some really nice sort of natural sort of potholes and scuffing to the road. But if you are bothered about the scuffing and you wanting to have it like a newly kept road or a newly done road, just apply another layer or 2 layers over the top and it eventually disappears. I build up about 5 layers repeating the same process over and over again, but I changed to grey paint. The sands and the talcum powder are very porous, so they actually absorb the colour, so when you come to weather the road later, when you start knocking top layers off to create potholes and everything else, you get a very good look just from the colours that have been pulled through. As you can see, this is just the damage that's been caused by the spray cans. Now, to create purpose damage, as interpreting yourself, I use a wire brush. I would advise using an actual metal wire brush rather than a plastic one, because when this dries, it's like concrete. So it does take a bit of elbow grease to get this off, but brushing it with a brush creates that nice layered effect. And as you can see, even on the edge of the road, you get that sort of slightly broken way effect. And I really do like this. You wouldn't get this effect using things like sandpapers and stuff. So just doing this technique means that you can get a very nice layered road as if it's been layered properly in real life. My crowd are going to be going, Luke, is this safe for wargaming? Let me just fill you in. Whenever I make anything for wargaming purpose, or even dioramas, I'm practicing how robust I can make something. This road will be hard enough for anything. It's rock hard. It takes some work to get the talc and the black sand to move. It's not an easy process. It's some elbow grease is needed. And when I build things, it might look like a lot of it is not very robust and it's going to be a bit flimsy for wargaming. But this is what I'm trying to perfect. Can we use the skills that the railway modelers do to make something realistic, but also can we play with it? And that's what I'm doing, as in testing and playing, and we've nailed it. Using a lot of paint, building up the layers, it's solid, it's playable, and it's going to look a lot better than using a piece of sandpaper. So let's crack on. Now for painting, there's not actually many steps left because we did most of it with the spray cans. What I'm doing is using a lighter grey, I think it's actually called ballast or concrete grey from Vallejo, just through the airbrush, just to put a top layer coat on to get rid of all the white areas that we've knocked off with the brush. Then I make a wash just using some water and flow aid with a bit of dark grey black paint in there. Mix that up and just chuck it all over the entire road. This acts more of a glaze than an actual wash because the texture of the actual road is so fine. It doesn't actually absorb in that much, but it just sort of takes the colours down, and when you dab that with a towel, you just get them slight inconsistencies in the concrete. Now for the parts where I've put the potholes and the cracks in the road, I just chuck some Nuln Oil in there, just so it's a little bit darker, and we do come back later and add a bit more detail to them. But using the Nuln Oil, it does dry a lot darker than the actual wash that we made. For the final painting step, it's just an ivory spray can from Montana Gold. The reason I use this is the colour's very thick. Do keep the nozzle clean because it does sort of spray thick globs everywhere if you don't keep it clean. But just mist that over the top and that just highlights enough, and it also puts a texture in there. To finish this off, I am literally just using the flocks and the base reddies, and then just some weathering powders on the edges of the road just to simulate some blown up dry dirt, and you can put these all over the road edges and even in the potholes if you desire, depending on what type of road you're going for. If you've liked this video and you would like me to do maybe some modern roads or even motorways using a technique like this, please let me know. I'll even think about doing road markings and everything else, but a countryside road for a first attempt to try the technique out, I'm very happy with the finish. Let me know if you think I should try something different in the comments below. But anyway guys, thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in, and if you'd like to support the channel, don't forget to check out the links where you can buy all my model Scenics below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again for the next video. Love, love, love.